In the grim darkness of the third millennium, there is only Brother Gray. Trigger warning. Brother Gray uses an AI machine spirit to narrate his presentations. Rest assured, every word comes from the mind of Brother Gray himself.
Unless it's lore, of course. However, if you are of a weak disposition, we recommend you listen to other content.
Now, with the haters gone, let's move on to our next presentation.
Greetings, brothers. Today's presentation started as a side quest, yet quickly moved into a full-blown project, as they do. First, some clarity. I do not film every project that I am doing for the YouTubes. If you are a content creator yourself, you will know how much time filming and editing takes, and that's not including creating the narration for the AI machine spirits to narrate. There has been no more progress on the second edition project, or Space Crusade, sadly, as I had fallen down a 10mm Lord of the Rings rabbit hole and ended up printing Helm's Deep and some Uruk-hai. This is probably for another presentation. Then we had started a campaign of League of Dungeoneers at my club, originally using the card standees that were provided. They were okay, but I realized overnight that I just don't like 2D standees. The game system shows great promise, a credit to its creator. It's kind of Warhammer Quest, but sprinkled with a bit of D&D. My group got stuck in and we prepared for a campaign. That's where the trouble started. I dug out all the miniatures I owned that could be suitable and painted up the doors. The next game, we didn't use the standees. I liked it, but, as always, something was missing.
Hi, Michael here. For those who don't know me, I am the designer behind League of Dungeoneers.
And it's all your fault, Michael. I did some Google foo and found a post by a Sean Fairbanks. Sean had created a dungeon using Kraken 3D files. They were a sight to behold. Well done to him. The LED lights are particularly cool.
These spiders are cool.
There was also a link to a video he made. There are tons of added details, and it's all really high-quality work. Check out the links below for this video. I also found that Gaming Geek had used these tiles and also made doors that could be opened. They were provided for free courtesy of Dragon's Rest, who designed the original doors, so a big thank you to both of these legends. I already own the Dragon's Rest HeroQuest dungeon, so you should check that out too. Also a shout out to Meet Me at the Table and the One Stop Co-op Shop. Some excellent instructional videos on the game. Here is the provided cardstock. It's very nice indeed, and looks great on the table with standees or miniatures. There's some great color and design variation to keep the drabness of a dungeon at bay. The doors from the Kickstarter come in 3D, with open and closed options that need to be switched out during play. They are good quality and very robust if a bit of a chore to paint. I use the AK acrylic pens to help speed up the process a little. Let's take a quick look at some of the minis I've scraped together for the campaign. I would say 80% are painted. I've grouped them as per enemy type to make it easier to select them during play. There's a lot of undead, with not so many humanoid figures.
Government health warning. Infantile videography ahead. 18+ only.
We had rolled up the stats for our party a few weeks ago, and I have a halfling thief I named Dildo Shaggins. Dildo Shaggins.
The what now?
I purchased the file from the big purple site and did a few modifications, including a leather cap with a huge penis stitched on top.
But why, brother? Just why?
Because I can, sister. I'm puerile and immature.
Does Dildo Shaggins at least have a backstory?
I figured he made his coin by moving from town to town and providing seating for lonely maidens with the help of his short stature.
Then why would he need to go dungeoneering, brother? It makes no sense.
To keep his story feasible, he needs to travel into the dungeon to find fresh specimens to adorn his cap. Pickling and stuffing only goes so far, and some of his clients can be quite rough on a small Shaggins's head. I will need to purchase a skinning kit to aid him with cultivation of the appendages after a kill, of course. We need to keep it real.
Then I guess after every quest, you could add a new appendage to his hat?
Now you're talking like a true Shaggins sister.
If you can't beat them, join them, I suppose. Brother Gray has most of the bestiarian miniature form. There are a few creatures that he would need to print and paint, such as giant centipedes, scorpions, minotaurs, and dark elves. But his collection proves fruitful with Hero Quest 2024, handling most of the bulk. A selection of Hero Quest and Mantic Games furniture might finally come in handy.
As you can see, there are a lot of different cave tiles. They come as the base floor tile, with the extra detail pieces printed separately. These floor tiles are designed to be printed on their side to reduce the printing artifacts you get from sloping flat surfaces. Also provided is a simpler floor tile option, which has no slots for the extra vertical details. The system is fantastic for generic dungeon crawling or Warhammer Quest. However, for Dungeoneers, I wanted something more bespoke, something with the same form factor as the cardstock included in the box. It was time to cut shit up in Bamboo Studio. There are 51 card tiles I would need to produce.
Are you absolutely insane?
Have you only just figured that out, sister? Thankfully, there is included a set of simpler floor tiles with no set cutouts. I could cut these up and make the basic form factors needed in the game. Then I could use any wall assets I wanted to and place them anywhere on the floor tiles, not just where they were intended, and create good representations of the card art. This also gave me the opportunity to include any terrain elements, such as chests and tables, directly into the print file. Of course, my friend Mark advised against this idea, but I think it will give faster setup and breakdown times. It would also allow terrain to look more like it was part of the dungeon rather than placed on top of it. As I'm assembling custom prints in the slicer, I will be printing them as a whole with walls and assets already connected. I like some of the textures you get from printing in this orientation, but they just need to be softened slightly. I use plastic putty filler paste on each tile. Then once dry, I use an emery board to quickly smooth any rough surfaces. Here's some tiles in various stages of progress. I prime over the filler to see which ones need more attention. If needed, I refill, then prime again. Rinse, repeat. I'm quite happy with the pit. However, it doesn't scream bottomless pit. So I decide to add an infinity mirror for the illusion and a bit of grandery. I use a cheap mirror for the bottom and a piece of glass with a window tint film for the top. There's just enough space between them to add a soil effect and an LED. I realize I will need to scale up the design just a little and add some steps with sidewalls. I take the opportunity to add more details. Here it is. I added some hard foam cave-in pieces to make it more interesting. The steps and sidewalls work fine, and there's a cutout for the mirror frame. I add a coat of plastic putty to the foam rocks and surfaces. I add texture to the inside of the frame, then paint it brown like soil. Another week passes. Time to continue the campaign with some of the currently completed upgrades. The tiles are still work in progress. It's good to see them in use after all the hard work. My fellow Dungeoneers also appreciate them. More progress. I use some Vallejo puddle effect acrylic resin sparingly here and there to add some interest, along with some green wash for mildew and dungeon dankness. The League of Dungeoneers cards have descriptions of what is in a particular corridor or room. Some have specific furniture, or the odd dead adventurer. I have added these in exactly the same locations as the cardstock art. The walls I have tried to keep to a minimum as not to obscure the view for my players. I try to place them in locations where they help protect the furniture or where I know that you cannot place a door. During play, we realize that doors can be broken, rendering them unable to be locked again. I head back to the printers and create some new files for when you've smashed the back doors in. Another week passes. We probe deeper into the dungeon. I pause to create a well-needed solution for card management during the game. I'll thank myself later. Underneath each print, I have written the corresponding card number and title to avoid confusion. It also helps with keeping track of what needs to be made. I have 14 more tiles to create and print, with the rest being in various states of completion. Another week passes. The project is beginning to wear on me with the constant flow of creating the files, printing, filling, sanding, and paint. Luckily, the weekly game sessions are a high point, and it bolsters me on to finish the project. We only have 5 hours a week to play, and it takes a few sessions to get through a dungeon. I only have about 6 large rooms to create now. The bulk are mostly complete with only a bit of extra detailing to do when I get time. The main thing is that they are playable in their current form, and certainly elevate the gameplay. I'm roughly 1 month into the project, and I know that I will need to move swiftly to keep the pace and finish the set before I crash out and my brain decides to focus on something else. Oops, too late. It's an all too common story, but one that I have learned to live with, so I try to manage my expectation accordingly. Most projects never reach a conclusion on the first pass, and I need to wait until the enthusiasm returns for me to push through to the finish line.
Brother Gray will continue to add detail as time progresses. The main thing is that we have a playable dungeon for the weekly sessions.
This is about week 8. There are a few large rooms to finish, but we will call this presentation done for now. Thank you for watching along with me on this journey, brothers. Take care.
Until next time.